So good to see you all. Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Elisa Hansen. For those of you who don't know me, I am a chat on YouTube, and I am honored to be here with you today to present the baddest of the bad. Two of our favorite vampires from Buffy. Juliet Landau as Drusilla.
Hello, hello.
Yep. And Julie Benz. You both look so beautiful today.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
You look bad at all.
Oh, bad.
So
I guess I'm bad. She's so bad, she doesn't even know she's bad.
that's how you know you're bad. And you feel good about being bad.
We're the baddest of the bad.
So how does it feel being back here at Sunnydale High School?
Oh, you know what's funny is I was saying to my husband this morning, it feels like those dreams you have when you're back at high school. But usually it's like you're at your locker and all of a sudden you realize you have no underwear on, or you're naked, or you're in the school play and you don't know the dialogue, or it's one of those kind of dreams. So it's sort of like that without the nightmare element.
I mean, I don't remember the combination to my locker. No,
I actually do.
I don't think I filmed. Did I do a scene here? Somebody stand up and tell me what scene I did here.
Didn't shoot it here. It was a built set. So it's funny because neither of us, I actually shot on some streets nearby, but I had never shot at the high school. So for us, we're like, oh wow, this is cool.
I do think I shot something else here. Because it looks familiar to me. But I remember. I'm so old.
200 years, yeah.
I'm over 400. Yeah, I mean, I'm 452 years old. Thank you. I love people. I drink the blood of virgins. Which means you're all safe.
There were a few kids here. Come on.
I mean, you don't count.
We're not that bad.
So, Drew and Darla, mother, grandmother, daughter.
I'm the mothership. I'm like this mother spaceship that spawns.
Do you guys, have you guys seen the movie Chinatown?
Yeah.
You know how I do it? My sister, my mother, my sister, my mother, my scene. I always felt like this is basically grandma, daughter.
So, playing bad guys, playing villains, was working on Buffy your first time being villainous?
For me, I had done a film prior, which was the first villain I ever played. And it was funny because it was this independent film where the director based my character on his ex-girlfriend, who was the most horrendous, bitchy character. And it's this black comedy where I'm actually more evil than the serial killer who lives next door. It was so liberating. I was so just spewing stuff, and this character was so narcissistic that they actually had, the set had like hundreds of pictures of myself in my house, including these huge like Andy Warhol prints in multicolors of my face, like, you know, so Drew was my second villain and a very different character,
Very different.
Really fun.
I started in comedy, so I never thought I would ever be playing such an evil character. But I did do an episode prior to this of Diagnosis Murder, where I played a psycho killer ice skater. It was kind of like the John Harding story, but like as dark as Diagnosis Murder would get. So yeah, so I mean, I would say Darla was definitely my first villainous villain.
Definitely your first vampire, right?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
So how did you prep for the role? Very different villain from what you were before.
Well, each character is its own kind of thing and has its own recipe. I just actually told a story that Julie heard recently, but I do a thing where I like to take my character out often because, first of all, when you're working on a set, it can be anywhere from 150 to 300 people, and you sort of have to keep a fluidity where you're aware of everything going on, but you still need to maintain the character, especially if you're working with a dialect, all that kind of stuff. So I like to go out where I interact in the world because I also think that it informs how other people treat you, and you learn a lot. So if you're playing a really trampy character and you're dressed, men talk to you in a very different way, and you learn. If you're playing a kind of slow character, the way people talk to you and treat you is very different than if you're a speedy character, et cetera, et cetera. So I decided with Drew, I try to figure out somewhere I've never been before so that I won't get into a conversation or someone won't be like, oh, I know you you're an actress from this, or I know you, or whatever, why do you have a Russian accent, or something. So I picked a liquor store in Hollywood at night because I figured it had to be night, a vampire, and I went in and I was sort of wafting up and down the aisles in my Drew way, and then there was this woman at the register who was having an altercation with the man behind the counter, and she was clearly not very well, and she was going off, and he was kind of not sure what to do and a little bit exasperated, and so I slowly wafted up to the counter, and he was dealing with her, and he looked at me, and he kind of rolled his eyes like, oh my God, this woman is crazy. I'm dealing with this crazy woman, and he looked at me, and all of a sudden he got really still, and his eyes widened, and I remember looking at him, and I could see his thoughts go, oh no, another one. And that moment I was like, I think I got Drew.
I mean, my technique was a little less intense. I was so when I was first hired on Buffy, I was vampire girl number 1. And I had originally auditioned for the role of Buffy, like thousands of other actresses in town, and I wasn't right for her, but Joss really liked what I was doing, and he goes, do you want to play vampire girl number 1? And I said, sure. So I was used as I did all the makeup tests for the vampire makeup. So I went 3 or 4 different days of they would put the prosthetic on and try to see how it looked on camera after putting the makeup on and all of that. And I remember I started getting a little nervous because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to play I've never played a villain before. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I remember I went into the bathroom and I had the prosthetic on my face and I looked in the mirror and I smiled. And I thought, oh, that's creepy. And so then I just did everything with a smile.
It was amazing how much the prosthetic did work for you. I remember the first time I had the prosthetic, and Joss was very specific that he wanted the Drusilla prosthetic to be sort of a little bit different, especially in season 2, when it was first established, a little bit prettier, almost feline looking, and otherworldly in a way that was a little less demonic and more not super attractive because that vamp face isn't, and so we were doing the test for it, and I had a similar thing, but with me, it was I just tilted down, and once I tilted down, it had a very feral look, and I was like, oh, like that, so it's interesting, it sort of tells you, that makeup tells you a lot once you have it on.
Yeah, I had talked to some people who had worked on Star Trek and other shows where they wore prosthetics, and they had advised me, they said, let the makeup do its job. You don't have to worry about because the prosthetic will do its job. And my prosthetic was designed to be the most vicious looking out of all the vampire faces. And it cut my vision in half. And then I had the big yellow contact lenses.
Contacts. They later got them to fit better, but at first
it was awful.
It would cover so much of your eye that you'd be like bumping into things on set. And it was hard to be daunting in scenes and seem dangerous when you were like bumping into the furniture.
Yeah. Well, especially, I mean, at least Drusilla could get away with that. I couldn't. Right?
Yeah, although
Drew could get a little away with bumping into furniture.
Maybe, although she's at least supposed to be a little graceful, a little fluid. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't see. The vampire teeth. I grind my teeth a lot, and I think I went through like 18 pairs of teeth.
During the day, you grind your teeth?
Yeah. Well, as soon as you put it in my mouth, I'm like.
Oh, like a chew toy.
Yeah, and I snapped like so many teeth. Like in the middle of filming, they just snap in half, and I'm like, uh-oh. Sorry.
I took mine home. I asked Todd McIntosh because when I first put them in, they're really lispy when you first put, and I thought this is not going to seem very dangerous. So I took them home, and I actually so it was like 2 a.m. at the time. I was living alone, and I live in the Hollywood Hills, and I don't want to leave food or trash in the house because of animals coming in or anything. So I'm like, okay, I've got them in. Who's going to be out at 2 a.m? I might as well just leave them in and go down and take the garbage out. And I go down to the garbage, and all of a sudden I hear, Juliet? And this woman starts to cross the street, and she's like, oh, I've heard about you. I'm your new neighbor. And I literally was like, what do I do? So I'm like, hi. I didn't want to scare her. I thought if I just started talking with the teeth, she'd be like, and run off. And I just remember that moment going like, I should have taken the teeth out. I should have taken them out.
Julie, you were in the very first scene that was shot for the show, right? What was that like?
So we did a pilot presentation first. Again, I was just Vampire Girl number 1. And, I don't know. I mean, it was just, I was guest starring and working on a bunch of other shows, and it was just another show I was going to do one episode of and move on to another. So I guess I don't want to sound like I was ungrateful, because I'm not ungrateful, but in the moment it just felt like, oh, it's just another show I'm working on, and who knows. And because it was on the WB, that was a brand new network, nobody had heard of it. Like, it was, there was great energy on set, and I loved all of that, but also Darla, at that point, Vampire Girl number 1 was dressed, my wardrobe was terrible in the pilot presentation, right? I looked like, it was like this flowy sheer thing with like these leggings, and when we went back to shoot shoot the pilot after, and that's when they came up with the Catholic schoolgirl outfit, then that became more exciting to me. But in the beginning, I was kind of like, got this vamp face on, I got this ugly costume. I don't know. So it wasn't until we went and reshot the pilot, basically, and they started defining her more, that it became more exciting.
I was going to say, I had a really weird thing with the vamp face. It reminded me when you were saying that. One of the episodes, I was in vamp face, and I didn't work in it all that much, but it was a day where I was in it probably for about 12 to 16 hours. And this band, will remain nameless, but the lead singer of the band was really hitting on me in vamp face. And I was like, okay, either I hope he's seen the show, or is he just a really strange guy that likes this? It was just the weirdest situation. I was like, okay, to each his own.
Juliet, will you tell us a story about the immortal and Julie?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the episode, I don't know if you remember this, but the episode of Angel where we end up having the threesome with the immortal.
Oh, the one.
So what was funny about this,
I like the one.
Yeah. So we get the script, and I read it, and I remember I called you, and I was like, oh my God, I never knew this history, that we had this threesome with the, and you were like, oh yeah. Yeah. You're like, yeah, I knew it. And then you go, look, remember that picture? So there's a still of us from the episode Reunion, where I think it's Reunion, where we get flipped with the car and we're hugging, I'm sort of crying, and then we're hugging. And she goes, just while I'm on the phone, just look at that picture. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, just look at the picture. And I look at the picture, and she goes, where's your hand? And I look, and it's cradling her ass.
Yes.
And she's going, it was always there.
It was always there. When we shot that scene, remember I had to disrobe. I had to change from, and you know, it was WB nudity, but it meant like they wanted like the naked back. And anyway, I was totally fine with it. And I know David and James really well, and you, and I was like, this is gonna be fine. It's like family. And then we get on set, and I literally like dropped the robe and was like, I couldn't remember a single line. Was like, so like, I think I turned bright red, and then it was fine. But that first take was like, I'm naked in front of everybody. I mean, I wasn't fully. I mean, I had privacy stuff on, but it was like, it still was kind of like, bleh, bleh.
All right, I have an unseemly story. Are there a lot of kids in the audience? Maybe I shouldn't do that. No kids are here. Anyone?
Just cover their ears.
Cover ears. So we were doing the scene like on Angel where David and I are having sex, and James's character comes in and ends up seeing my face, and they were staging the scene, and they're like, we keep seeing your face, Juliet, and we want the reveal, and they were staging all these ways, and I go, I know what everyone's thinking, and I kind of like got on all fours and turned, and then they're like, yeah, we can't do that. Like, well, you wanted to not see my face.
I mean, that's the fix.
Can you talk about the fire hydrant scene from Angel?
Which one?
Oh, the fire hydrant scene?
Oh my gosh. You were so sick that night.
And it was so cold.
It was the coldest day. Okay, so Los Angeles does not get that cold, but it was record low cold. We were downtown Los Angeles.
At night,
in the middle of like the weird, crazy hour of the night. You had a raging flu. You were completely sick. I made the mistake.
That was back when you worked when you were sick. Now you don't go to work when you're sick.
Exactly. And you were like, and I made the mistake of going like, I never get sick when I'm working, right? And of course, caught your horrendous flu. But the thing that was so crazy about that is we were rehearsing the scene, and not only were you not feeling well, but we had to do that fire hydrant scene where you're getting sopped. But the crazy thing is we did the rehearsal, they showed us how they were going to splash the water and everything, and the very first take, I don't know what happened, if they got excited or whatever, they cranked up that water, and we were like hit. And we kept trying to do the scene, and I'm going, ugh, and I'm crying, because the scene is crying with the burn on my face, and I forget do you guys remember the dialogue? You might know it more than I do, but I was saying, my something, and I'm moaning, and we kept going through it, and with this deluge of water, Julie like burning, and me trying to go, oh, and doing the scene, and it kept going, and then it cut, and we were like, what was that? And everyone started laughing so hard because we were just trying to stay like upright in doing the scene and being like really good workers and trying to get through it.
They also said they had heated the water, but by the time it went up in the air and it poured back down on us, it was freezing. Like it was, you could feel it was warm coming out, but when it got back down, it was so cold. Yeah, that was a long night.
It was a really long night. And
we love being waterboarded.
So on my show, Vampire Reviews, we talk about how vampires are metaphors for the human condition, metaphors and symbols for things that we relate to in the real world. So playing two very different vampires, what would you say each of your vampires was a metaphor for or a symbol of in the context of the show?
Well, I would like to think Darla is a symbol for anti-aging. Eternal youth. I don't know. I'm not that deep, you guys. What do you think Darla is a metaphor for? Anyway? Entrepreneur. I mean, listen, I used to joke around that she would kill for wardrobe. So if you walked past and you were in a really nice outfit, you were her next victim. Because she was going to steal your clothes.
I would say, Drew obviously had some mental health struggles, but also, but I also would say she really was a loving character. Like, she was filled with, I mean, that was one of the things that was so interesting about the writing and the range of the character, is that she really was a character who was very loving and giving love, and sort of loving and needy in love as well. And so I would say that, love. With a little bit of murder and mayhem.
That's her love language. So which vampire would you say was the worst? Which was the most villainous of the baddest of the bad?
I would say we were both equally villainous. One thing about Drusilla, like, we were definitely, like, you didn't want to mess with Darla. But I would say there's something about, like, because Drew was so unpredictable that you didn't know what was going to happen or what she could do, that just, there's something scary about that in real life. When you meet someone who's really unpredictable, you're like, oh, you know, so there's that element. But I would say we were both bad.
Yeah, and Darla just liked to play with her food. Nothing wrong with that.
So what was your favorite scene to shoot together?
I know what mine was. Mine was an Angel, the episode in Reunion where we got to the wine cellar scene where we got to team up and eat all the lawyers.
Oh, lawyers are delicious. They are delicious.
Because it was really, and I remember at the time when we read that storyline, we actually thought it was so cool that we were teaming up together and wreaking havoc in Los Angeles, and we were hoping in a way that we would get a few more episodes of seeing what that would entail, and then that got truncated, but it was, I really enjoyed shooting that with you.
I mean, this was the four of us together. I mean, the one was also a great scene. The scene we talked about was the one. The four of us was the one.
Yeah.
But also the night of the Boxer Rebellion.
Oh, yeah. Except but you know that whole walk, it was inscripted as the power walk of the four of us, but I had torn a ligament on the shoot on Disney Ranch like the 2 nights before really badly, and so my foot was literally like 4 or 5 times the size it normally is and blue. And so we tried walking, and they were like, oh my God, because I was basically limping. And they were like, yeah, that's not going to work. And so then we were trying to figure out what to do, and then James and I were like, oh, what if he lifts me up, and it's kind of our epic love affair. And he's like, you know, I can do it. And it actually became a really lovely shot, but that was born out of necessity because I literally could not. I was like, I think I can try to walk without, and I couldn't do it.
So Darla's a vampire with a redemption arc. Can you talk to us about how that came about? Because that's one of the things I think has most resonated with people even to this day. Every time I talk to them about Buffy, they're like, Darla.
Well, it came about, you know, I was never under contract on the show. I was what they call a recurring guest star. So, and unfortunately what happened was I was getting other work, and that was giving me a contract. So they had to figure out a way to tie up Darla's storyline because I was no longer available to work for them. And this is very typical in Hollywood. You know what I mean? If you're not under contract, but then another show, you have to leave the show that you're on to go be under contract somewhere else. Very typical. So we got into that kind of situation, and you know, Tim Minear always wanted to kill Darla. That was his thing. He wanted to kill Darla. And I loved him for it, because he would throw ideas out at me. He had one idea, he was like, what if you're spying on Angel, and then you trip and fall and accidentally mistake yourself? Everybody thinks Darla's still around, and nobody knows that she's booked. I love that idea. I thought it was one of his most brilliant ideas. But then they came to me, and they're like, no, we figured it out. And because when we shot season 2, when I had relations, other kids? When I had relations with Angel, and I was trying to turn him back into Angelus, and he didn't turn back because I didn't give him that one moment of pleasure. I was very upset. I remember on set making a joke to Tim Minear, and I said, wouldn't it be so funny if Darla came back at some point pregnant? And Tim goes, Julie, there's a reason why we're the writer and you're the actor. That's season 3 and they wrote it in the script. So, yeah. I started that idea. So I thought it was really great. And I think too, they wanted, because at that time, you know, we had the posting boards back then, and everybody hated me. They hated Darla and they hated Julie Benz. And it like really hurt my feelings. And Josh would tell me to stay off the posting board. Like he would be like, don't read it, don't read it, don't read it. And you know, you can't help but read it. And especially once you know it's out there. And I think they really wanted to make the audience love Darla for once. And so that's kind of how that storyline came about and how she got her redemption in the end.
When I wasn't available for working on something else, I ended up, that is the episode, one of that times, the episode was the Chaos Demon came around because I wasn't available. I think I got punished, and so I was off with a slimy demon.
These have been great stories. Thank you. The nostalgia. But now you're together again. You've come back for this.
Yes.
Woo! And you got to step back into your characters again.
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, first I want to do a shout out to Rachel Kleinsmith. She is here. There's Rachel.
Shout out, Rachel.
And she got from Disney, the official Buffy the Vampire Slayer makeup line, and then she came to Dev, who was my husband right there. And we actually put together the shoot, and we designed all of the looks, and came up with a slogan, which is Buffy Beauty Line, it's about time. And
it is about time.
It is about time, right? So it's never happened before. And then also, we brought Julie Benz on board to play, and it's about time also because we did the shoot through all the eras, all these different eras. We shot 5 different eras. It was so much fun to do, and filling in little chapters of history that the characters had together that we didn't get to see in the show. And so it was a blast to actually like do all that. We put a lot of work together. We did a whole lookbook ahead of time. We had an incredibly talented team. David DeLeon came on board, who did makeup on Buffy and Angel, and he is Jane Fonda's personal now, but he came to play with us.
I asked for the Jane Fonda special.
And
do what you do to her.
Scott Williams, who has done thousands of films and was Winona Ryder's personal hair, like Dracula, did all these beautiful wigs. He came on board to play with us. So we just had such a creative time, and the pre-orders are open now.
And Will.
And Will, I also want to do a special, you're going to make me cry, but Will Bertan, who did the wardrobe for the shoot, who was actually a very young man, has passed away unexpectedly, and should not have. He was actually misdiagnosed. He was having a heart thing, and they said he was fine. And but he was so extraordinarily talented. Those are actually Bob Mackie dresses that because he worked with Bob Mackie, he did all Cher, Sonny and Cher's wardrobe and stuff. And so Will was just like an amazing human and incredible. We just had an incredible time collaborating with him. We're really sad that he's not here to see the end product of all his hard work and beautiful work as well. So yeah. Sorry, downer.
But I do think we need a skincare line though.
Yeah, and by the way, there's every product comes with the photo inserts, and the inserts are magnetized, so if you don't want to keep them with the makeup, you can put them on your fridge. And every single one has different images from the different eras, and there's new products going to be released. And if you've already, and all the stuff you've been seeing, if you've already ordered stuff, and then the new products come and you want to get those too, there's going to be special discount for people that have already bought it. And And so they're very collectible because they're limited edition, and it's been so fun to be under the auspices and be the official and have all of that in terms of the Buffy, the Disney people and everybody on board and all of that. Yeah.
When you were doing this photo shoot, new with the characters or bring anything more to it that you hadn't done before with all that hindsight?
The one thing I would say is Juliet and I have a real ease working together because of the history that we have. And so, I mean, for me, I find it surprisingly easy to slip back into Drew. And, with the Audible project last year, that was there is a real ease and a history, and that so when we're working together and physically with each other, it just sort of happens, and there's a grace and a kind of dance that we have that's just like we're family.
So, what are you working on now?
Well, unfortunately because of the pandemic and the strike, I'm what we call fun employed. Which is good. I'm enjoying my life. But, Hollywood's starting to crank back up slowly, so, But I'm enjoying time with my family, my husband and my dogs, and traveling. I leave tomorrow for vacation. So it's a nice breather. I mean, I've been working pretty steadily since I was 13 years old, so, a little time off is, it's good for the soul. And I do have a project in development that I've been working on, it's a passion project of mine. We're getting ready to take it to pitch out. I have a writer, director, and producer on board, and we have our script ready finally. So the development side is very slow process, but it's new for me to be creating something, and it's something that it's based on a true story, and it's a project I'm extremely passionate about, and so I'm actually very excited about going out and pitching it out and seeing if we can get it made.
I had my directorial feature debut, and it's had its worldwide streaming and Blu-ray release. Streaming on all different platforms. We also have the Blu-ray has nearly 5 hours of bonus extras.
It's a vampire movie.
It is a vampire metaphor, and I star in the movie. Gary Oldman is in it. Ron Perlman, Robert Patrick, Lance Henriksen, best-selling author Anne Rice. The only time she ever appeared in a movie acting. It was an incredible project to work on. We've had an incredible ride. We swept all of the festivals. We literally only submitted to 21 festivals and not only got into all 21, but won 12 feature in the festival, 9 best director, 6 best actors for me. Just the awards were amazing. And we have a group of people that have grown up around the film because this film uses the vampire metaphor. It's sort of a genre-bending, elevated horror which explores the repercussions of growing up under the sway of narcissism and psychological abuse. And we've had the most powerful community grow up around the film. We have some of our Place Among the Deadheads, as they name themselves here. And they are grateful and come to every single screening event, and they fly into live, whether they're online or fly in, and it's just been an amazing community. I love you guys with all my heart. You've been amazing being on this journey with you. And so has been going on. And then I had played a character on Bosch named Rita Tedesco, and I recurred as Rita, and they brought me back now on Bosch Legacy to recur as well, so I've been shooting that. We've obviously been working hard on the makeup line and some of the new products coming down the line. And then I also just recorded an audiobook series for Big Finish, which works in conjunction with the BBC, works with the Dr. Who audios. And it is hysterical. It's one of the funniest things I've ever in my life read. I was reading it out loud. And it is another vampire project, and I said, I don't really think I want to do another vampire project. And they were like, please, we wrote it for you, you just read it. And I started to read it, I started laughing out loud, which I never do. I'm the kind of person when I read something, I'm like, that's funny. That's funny. But I was laughing. And Deb said, look, what's going on? And I was like, oh my God, you have to read this. So I'm really excited. It's a very, very different character for me. I kind of talk like the Crown, like Queen Elizabeth. And everyone, it's so different and so funny. So that's going to be coming out actually in October. And then, anyway, so lots of stuff. And then I also, when we finish up here today, I have a special announcement about something else new that's going to happen. But we'll do it after. So you guys stay, and I'll share the announcement with you because we're announcing it here for the first time also. Amazing.
But you get to go on vacation.
Yeah. And I want to see pics.
Yeah, when was the last time you went on vacation?
What's that word mean? What is a vacation? What's sleep? So yeah, I think because she had splashed up 10 minutes, so I think we're probably good with the panel, and then we'll do that one for you guys.
Except my leg fell asleep.
Oh, fine. Okay, you guys, I'm going to share something. You know when you get those weird, like, cramps, like you maybe haven't had enough potassium, where it's, like, so intense that your toes are going up? So, like, the first 40 minutes of this panel, I had that in both feet, but I was like, no, I'm just going to pretend this is not happening, but it quieted down. But I know, like, is it the couch or what's happening?
It was like it was all curled up.
No, I don't know what I wasn't, and I had it. But anyway, so yeah, I had a weird thing going on.
Well, thank you guys for me.
Slaying It with Juliet Landau. It is the first of its kind Buffy rewatch podcast with this has never been done before. Okay, I am going to co-host with my Scoobies. And my Scoobies, I want to bring up Frank. Scooby Frank. I want you to come up. And Scooby Chris was supposed to be here, but had an emergency. So we had Scooby Chris on an iPad. Slay It has everything that we all love. So it encompasses the heartfelt nostalgia. It has personal behind-the-scenes stories. It's also a fresh evolution and a continuation, an exploration with new content and new entertainment as well. So we are going to take the idea of the traditional podcast and evolve it. And Frank, will you talk a little bit about the QR code, and did you bring up the flyers? Oh, he forgot the flyers.
I forgot the flyers.
Okay, so we have these flyers that are really cool. They got the logo on it.
Chris today is being played by Shelby Scott of the podcast Scaring to Sleep, because Chris had a little issue at home. If you guys are a fan of that. I am so excited to do this with you. This was like, we started talking, we met at New York Comic Con.
We did, and we started brewing this idea.
And then we started talking, and it's just like, we started talking. It turns out we're really both big fans of the show Columbo.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those things that the more we talked, it became that scene in Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? Yeah!
It was literally the minute, so I met Frank on a round table press thing. And the minute I met Frank, I was like, do you want to come to our live New York premiere? I like you. And he did, and it's like amazing.
Her and her husband was so nice to me that I was convinced they mistook me for somebody else. Then I was like, oh, they must think I'm somebody else. I'll just go with it. Oh, thank you.
So this is the QR code. So if you guys want to, we'll have it with us so you can scan on your phone or whatever. And I don't like to do it. I said, Frank, do it. I'm doing it.
Okay, so you take this flyer, scan the QR code, and that will link us to Spotify, Apple, our socials, and anywhere you enjoy fine podcasts.
And so we'll probably launch in like 4 to 6 weeks. But what we are going to do in the meantime, we're going to actually have some bonus material, including this here, where we're working with you guys. It's going to be like as we do a whole countdown and everything to the podcast. So we're hoping that you will scan while you're here and subscribe, because we want to, and tell your friends, so we start building up the audience. And the other thing, Chris, do you want to say something before I keep running on and not letting you talk on your iPad?
Just keep going. This is fantastic.
And this is the thing with us. We get on the phone and literally like the three of us, like 2 hours go by and we're like, oh my God, we've got to go. We have to stop talking and laughing.
And it's not nonsense. You're just talking nonsense half the time. And that, just FYI, we'll get into some weird places as our conversations continue.
Fun places. And we're going to be talking with you guys. We're going to have we'll have guest cast. You know, obviously we'll have some of the cast on with us. We're going to have some of you guys come on the show. It's going to be like amazing. We might even, I remember that Chris had a cool idea about using some of all your guys' voices in the actual titles potentially and stuff of the show. Right?
Right, Chris?
Right, Chris? Maybe what we should do right now is just play a little secret, which is also when you spam it here, it's on the feed, the audio trailer for the show, a little teaser.
In every generation, there is a chosen podcast. It alone will stand against the mundane, the ordinary, and the forces of boredom.
We're going to Slay. Want to go?
While we're here at Sunnydale, if you want to, please make videos saying I subscribe to Slayin' It, and if you want to, you can do some of your best Drew, want to come. Or do whatever you want to do, that you be fun, be creative, whatever, and share them with us. We'll actually later on socials and everything, and with the mailing list from here, we'll send to you guys an email that you can send us the videos, that we can hashtag, we can share out your videos, and we can do all kinds of fun stuff with you guys as we're revving up to talk some Buffy.
I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity for this because as a psycho Buffy fan for decades, this is crazy that I'm involved in this. I still think she's mistaken me for somebody else.
And I have to tell you, the ideas for like all of the new stuff that we're going to do, like it's so much fun. We've been having so much fun developing stuff. But the funny thing also, I have to say, with Frank's wife Deb, she is such an, he said, well, I'm not really that as hardcore. I've only seen the show all the way through 4 or 5 times. And then with Deb, it was funny, she was sleeping the other night, and I said, oh, didn't we start that? What have you said some year? What did you say?
Well, so yeah, the show started in '96.
She wakes
gets
up
out of a dead sleep and goes, 97. Fake fan.
Yeah, so obviously Deb's going to have to be on the show as well. So